All right, welcome everyone to another Agilify webinar. Today we're going to be exploring a little bit into some of the technologies that are out there in the intelligent automation space. A lot of people have been asking for some more information about how to pull together a lot of different technologies. There are a lot out there. So today I've got a couple of guests with me. I've got Scott Teeple, our Chief Technology Officer here at Agilify. I've also got Fritz Heimberger from Appian. Care to introduce yourself real quick and your role?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Again, Fritz Heimberger with Appian. I'm our Vice President Global Industry Lead for the Healthcare Provider Division at Appian. I've been at Appian for almost 6 years now and have been in the clinical space for about 22 years. So excited to have this automation discussion with you guys.
Thanks for being here. Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Scott Teeple, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Agilify. Been with the Agilify or the Ascension Group now for 5 years now, and kind of the onset of this automation journey, and really excited to be here and have this conversation and to continue to explore into what is intelligent automation.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So Dave Wells, I'm our Chief Marketer here at Agilify. I've been here since basically the beginning of Agilify. So excited to get this series going with this. We really need our partners like Appian in this ecosystem to make sure like folks out there that are on their intelligent automation journey are going to have success. So what we're here to do today is to talk about Appian's role in intelligent automation, also talk about some of the benefits of why Appian and Agilify have really come together. And so the first topic that we want to bring and put on the table here is exactly that. We want to establish why this is important for the intelligent automation folks out there as you guys are on your journey. So Scott, I want to start with you. You know, you're the Chief Technology Officer, and you guys have done a ton of work within your collaboratory space and vetting through technologies like Appian. And for those out there that aren't familiar with Appian, it's considered the intelligent business process management platform in this space. So Scott, I wanted to turn it over to you so that you could kind of explore and tell us why Appian made the most sense and is beneficial for Agilify going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talked about integrated automation or intelligent automation in our last web series in our white paper, we talked about kind of the three main pieces of technology coming together. You've got the cognitive piece, you've got this orchestration, and then you've got the integration. And I know we spent a lot of time kind of talking about that, but really when we looked at how do we solve business process problems today, right? When this whole thing really kicked off, we were looking at how do I solve the task? How do I solve that individual thing? But as we know, it didn't just stop there. We're starting to look at how do we expand the aperture? How do we start looking at more things and looking at it more as a role-based, right? We started looking at within Agilify, we know that we can solve it with the RPA tools, with the Blue Prisms, the Automation Anywhere, the UiPaths of the world. But we knew that there was a lot more opportunities to really solve and really start getting in really deep. We knew that cognitive was really starting to come out there. We hear a lot of buzz out there today around, is it AAA trifecta, is it automation singularity, is it whatever the buzzword flavor is of the week of what this really is an intelligent automation. But then we also know that there's a major core component of intelligent automation, which is orchestration. And that's where intelligent business process management really starts coming in. When we start looking at solving it for the role itself, or solving it for the business person itself, not just offloading and separating the task out of the human and saying, human, go work. We really want to start focusing on how do we manage, how do we control, how do we monitor the business process from end to end. And that's where a really robust, intelligent automation tool like Appian comes in, when we start looking at things more than just the task automate. We're really looking at the overall process. And so it's why we're really, really excited to really bring in a partnership with Appian as we move forward.
Awesome. And Fritz, I wanted to kind of turn to you because I know the intelligent automation journey is it's a difficult one.
It is.
And
sure.
There's people who try to go out alone. They don't know exactly what they're getting into. And Agilify from the service provider side, I just wanted to hear your perspective on why you guys felt like Agilify was a great partner for you guys to help plug in and make sure your clients are successful. Basically.
Absolutely. Well, client success is really the name of the game, right? Appian has had a long-standing reputation of not necessarily having clients or customers, but we have true partnerships. You know, whether it be in the healthcare space or outside the healthcare space, we are helping with some of the world's most complex business processes, leaning them out, making them more efficient, making them easier to use. And, you know, partnering with an entity such as Agilify, somebody that is really capable of pulling together all of those different facets, all of those different modalities of intelligent automation. To Scott's point, be it UI, be it AA, be it BP, be it Appian's internal, Appian RPA, you know, Agilify is well versed in all of those different technologies. And I think what really excites me as well, you know, obviously I've got the bias towards the healthcare front and I've been doing it for a long time,
Yep.
but the thought of intelligent automation to really not only make the processes leaner, more efficient, as I said, but to really help the human beings, you know, it's no longer just take the load off the humans and throw it on a bot. You know, having something in place like an Agilify running those teams, squaring things up, and with it being an entity like Agilify that has that multi-sectored experience that they're able to draw from to really show that excellence history. You know, it's got the pedigree of not only healthcare, but also multiple other, you know, environments around the world in different types of sectors in which you've seen lots of success and been able to really help your clients take it to the next level.
Yep, thanks. You know, we do pride ourselves on, you know, being able to, you know, go into any industry, and a lot of the functions that go along with those industries, you know, they all have some similarities on whether you're trying to do something in finance or supply chain, whatever it may be. So, Scott, I wanted to kind of move on to the something that is a little bit confusing, and you guys touched on it just a little bit already. There are different technologies that are out there in the IA space. You know, whether you're talking, you know, there's a little bit of confusion. A lot of people think that RPA is maybe the end all of, you know, intelligent automation, but really there's others out there like ML, AI, OCR, NLP. Like there's many different technologies that we bring in to help organizations succeed, right? In your opinion, where does Appian kind of fit into that stack of technology for intelligent automation?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, when we really take a look, and, you know, I just explained a second ago around cognitive, you've got orchestration, and you've got the integration. But when we really dive in deeper, and the analogy that I like to use there is around, you know, the human itself, right? You've got the cognitive, you've got the brain, you've got the nervous system or the orchestration itself.
Sure.
So it's really what's really connecting with the brain. And then you've got the integration of the hands on the keyboard. When we really start dissecting those three elements themselves, you start getting into a little more details around six different themes start really coming out of that. And that's, you know, language or computer vision, you know, really starting to talk about how that brain kind of works. You've got integration, task automation, you got process orchestration. But really, when you start looking at these things coming together, you start looking at how do I really tie all those things together? And that's really where an orchestration engine, something that can really tie in that cognitive piece, right? You've got the hands-on keyboard or the RPA piece. You start looking at how the business process is working end to end. Again, instead of just offloading that task and putting it off to the side, you're saying, hey, I now have visibility, maybe end to end, that article or that process, that thing that's coming into that's really, I need to start controlling. I can now start seeing that at control points or gates and start looking at how do I better manage that process itself. Oh, and by the way, now that I understand that, now I can start really reaching out into the more cognitive pieces or that integration piece as a whole. And that's really where we see Appian really coming in. And then you start layering on the no-code, low-code kind of aspects of that as well, right? So it's great that I can go off and I can do orchestration manually, or I can do that through traditional development, which we've been able to do, for 30 years or 50 years, 60 years when Fortran actually came out, right? But it's really, the game is changing because now I don't need the classically trained developers to actually start doing some of that work. I can start engaging in more of a citizen developer type environment, where now I'm empowering them, who are the ones who do it every single day, to really start really controlling what is actually going on within that business process in a low-code, no-code type fashion, and really empowering that to the fullest ability. So we're really excited about kind of bridging and building out all of these core pieces of technology all together in a single kind of orchestration fashion.
So, and to your point, it's really exciting, the thought of, for years and years, we've had the thought of the notion of shadow IT. So many business users feel like they have to kind of keep it over here in their own little niche and never shall anyone else know that we're working on this super secret project. Being able to really kind of bring that technology to them, bring it to the masses, if you will. Certainly not taking IT out of the frame of mind, because we need them there for integration, we need them there for testing, IT will never be deprecated on that front.
Right, exactly.
But to be able to let those business users know that they have a tool that, as you said, will help them be those citizen developers. Specifically with Appian, we always laugh that our best developer, our best coder, is the one who has absolutely no coding experience, haven't developed the bad habits, somebody who hasn't, had things ingrained in them that this is the only way something can work, and, never shall to deviate from that. The thought of being able to use that business analyst, that business consultant who really knows that subject matter inside, outside, up, down, and diagonal is huge. And to be able to have those folks developing your applications, the ones that actually know the work that needs to get accomplished and how it may be able to get leaned out, et cetera, it's huge.
I'm going to go off script for a second. Is citizen developer a common term that's out there that I know it has been for us? Should we explain that real quick?
I'm sure. Citizen developer's been out for a lot of years now, and it really was, I think, how the RPA space really, I think, got its momentum was around this concept of, hey, you don't need to be classically trained anymore, right? You don't need to go off and get some computer science degrees or learn some fancy programming tool. It's really empowering the users in a Visio type or flow chart. Maybe I don't do product placement there with Visio, but a workflow type UI to really start manipulating and or doing code itself. So I don't need to know the technical bits behind it and how to do joins or object or instantiations. I now just drop it onto a screen, place it down, and all of a sudden stuff starts happening automatically for us. To go back, it's like this is where a lot of these tools really got its start. I know Appian's kind of had this low code, no code for a lot of years, but really focused within the business management suite and really, opening the aperture for you guys and starting to bring a lot more than just process management and really starting to get that really tight integration and start bringing all of it together is kind of where that citizen developer is really hitting.
Well, and thinking as well, not necessarily from a product placement perspective, but just thinking about any entity where you can identify the actors in a particular workflow, and then identify the workflow itself as it crosses, betwixt and between all of those different actors.
Yeah.
Those citizen developers, those business consultants, those business analysts are the ones that are going to know that the best. So.
And being able to tie those together, right?
Absolutely.
And just by dropping it on and dragging a line, it's automatically there, which is why it's so fantastic about this, and I don't have to know how to code it.
Yep, line by line by line.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that, because I don't know that everybody out there understands what the capabilities of or what a citizen developer can achieve in this, right?
Yeah, and I guess I didn't actually define it, right? Citizen developer is really just having the ability for anybody to sit down and start doing the work itself. Right? Yep. It's not necessarily that you have to go off and get loads and loads and loads of training, but I'm empowered to really automate and change my own work set with the tools that are in front of me.
Your own personal world, absolutely.
Right. Yep. All right. Awesome. So we've gotten to this point where we all kind of been talking about this, but it's really important to be able to pull those technologies together to be able to efficiently and be successful with scaling of your programs, your automation programs. So, Scott, I want to start with you, but where and how is Agilify pulling in IBPM to be successful with our clients and Appian's clients, and how are we utilizing them to make sure that, and when's the right time? When's the right time to bring in a tool set additionally to where most people would start with maybe just RPA?
Yeah, well, I'll first share kind of, this Forrester announced, 52% of automations that have 10 have only got 10 bots and automation, and they're really having problems scaling. And really they've cited the lack of orchestration or executive leadership or visibility that keeps them from being able to scale. So as you look at that population, you say, wow, well, what are we doing within Agilify to help those individuals really scale? There's a great product that came out of Appian, Digital Workforce Manager, that we've really taken a hard look at, and it's really around empowering the customer base to start getting visibility and to understand what their program is doing, how their program is doing, more from an orchestration, more from the business management of the automations themselves, giving them time to go do what they're good at, which is programming or programming, developing those automations or working on the business process and working through what are the next pipeline of opportunities to start coding. But that's just the first step of where Agilify is looking to really bring the Appian tool, the suite of opportunities in our automation mission control. So it's bringing our practitioner expertise and how to manage the day-to-day operations with the great tool set of Appian, again, to really engage the business, the COE, so they can go to do the development work themselves, which is really exciting.
Makes sense.
All right, so Fritz, I was going to jump in here too. Appian has continued to evolve. It's, obviously we've gone through and vetted through a lot of technologies, and Appian, we loved a lot about what the tool brings. But you guys have gotten a lot of feedback from your users, and you guys have been implementing and adjusting, as you go through, as most really good technologies do. Can you kind of give us some insights on kind of like, what you guys have learned recently, and maybe like where you guys are headed in the near future with your tech?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. Appian has been around for almost 22 years now, at least 21, and we have indeed learned a lot in that amount of time. We've always prided ourselves on kind of having that single SKU. You buy. What do we get with Appian? You get Appian. It's the platform. It's the low-code application development platform, and that certainly is the biggest portion of what we do. Adding the intelligent automation factor onto that is incredibly important. But being able to not necessarily have those different technologies inherently built, so many of our competitors, just so much of what's out there today has really become that Frankenstack mentality. Whether it's a situation where to get one business process done, you need to have, let's pull it off the menu. These 37 different modules that need to be implemented correctly, then tied together. Appian really is that differentiator where everything is rolled into one, and we've been so good about doing that. Even on the RPA front, right? We now have Appian RPA. We had our Novire Jidoka acquisition that is now Appian RPA. We are thrilled to have those folks on board. It has been, inherently integrated into the product now. But there are some of those products that we don't want to necessarily bring under our auspices. We can have an external connector that works really, really well. We've done a lot of work with Google Cloud, for example. Intelligent document processing, looking at that natural language processing as well. Taking what used to be OCR, in my healthcare world, let's take a claim and let's scan it in and let's, redact this and redact that and parse the data, and here's what we've got. Taking it from that to true machine learning, whether it be, hey, you've got a bill that comes in any one of these 72 different permutations, or, heaven forbid, a handwritten pharmacy order, for example. Being able to actually use the intelligent automation to learn those things and use that ML to make it better, but to your very point, Scott, being able to kick out when need be, whether it be Appian's Robotic Workforce Manager or Agilify's version thereof, being able to train it really, really well. But if an exception does kick out, how do we manage it? It just doesn't disappear into a black hole. So we certainly see a lot of potential, like I said, with you guys. We're looking at a lot with Google Cloud these days. We're doing a good bit of work. Of course, our Appian Cloud is on Amazon Web Services to begin with, so some of the Amazon services as well from an AI, ML perspective. We certainly are seeing a lot in the healthcare world specifically as it relates to patient referrals management, kind of patient journey management, care coordination. How are we, and especially with COVID, right? So, as we've talked about the pandemic, a months-long situation where we are truly trying to enable these nurses to be and docs to be as efficient as they possibly can, getting these patients to the appropriate arenas of care as quickly as possible, and and as safely as possible, whether it be for their own personal needs or whether it be for the needs of the health system, because they need to free up beds, because they've got, a crisis imminent, breathing down their neck, needs to be dealt with. Being able to truly use that intelligent automation to best make the decisions and not have it be a reactive situation, but definitely be a proactive situation. That's huge for us.
Yeah, you touched on a lot there when it comes to, and I know a lot of people want to use the automation, intelligent automation to, focus on reducing hours and
Sure.
and some will say head count and things like that, but the head count thing has never really come true. What you've really done is been able to move people to do more work actually. So
100%. One of our clients actually in the payer space has been able to use Appian from a care coordination utilization management perspective. They actually looked at all of their highest criticality, highest acuity patients, and it is in their best interest to ensure that those particular folks don't have a critical episode. From a chronic care perspective, be it chronic neuro, chronic renal, chronic cardiac, whatever the situation may be, we want to make sure that proactively those patients are on a happy path, that they are staying healthy, that life is good, because the last thing we want is for a high dollar episode to occur where they come into the ED, then they're, ending up being inpatient, then they're having to go to rehab or a long-term care situation. One of the great things, to your very point about not necessarily eliminating human headcount, but more enabling that headcount to do infinitely more than it did before. This particular client was actually able to, with the same amount of physicians and nurses in their call center, managing that care continuum, that utilization management of their members, without cutting any headcount, without adding any headcount. Because of Appian, they were able to do over 25% more from a patient caseload perspective than they were without. So, that's a win-win-win across patient satisfaction, clinician satisfaction, hard dollars and cents reduction. That's a multifaceted win.
That's something that we get into. We call it total automation program yield, right? And we've got categories. We talk about scale, right? And that's not directed at hard dollar cost savings and things like that, but patient, experiences, whether it's, employee, associate, client experience, like all of that can be factored in to understand where, those things add up. Whether you want, it's hard to, calculate sometimes and find the revenue or the from those or the impact that it's making to your business, but we've done it, so we figured out
you're
some
talking
ways to do
about
it. So.
the cost avoidance of having really happy doctors and nurses. It's really expensive to be able to go find and hire these individuals. So if you have really happy employees, then you don't have all the cost that it takes to really around.
100%.
It's like how do you make sure that you take advantage of some of that? So. And I know that you're probably plugging our total automation program yield white paper, so make sure you take a look at that. That's right.
No, that's all good. So Scott, I know Fritz gave us a really good sort of background and explanation of where where Appian's been and kind of where they're going with their acquisitions and things like that. How are they aligning more and more with with us, and where our roadmaps kind of are merging here? So
yeah, I said it a little bit earlier, just around the intelligent automation space, but and task-based and roles-based. But that really, I believe, is the future of where this is headed when you look at intelligent automation. If we have the abilities to really start focusing on the role itself, right? Again, as we're looking at whether it's procure to pay, we're looking at the life of the PO, from the time that we actually get the PO all the way through payment, right? Not just looking at the match exception itself, but looking at it holistically all the way through the life of that document. We really start looking at what we call Redilo, or reimagine the day in the life of. If we can really start bringing knowledge assets real time, right, to empower the associate or the employee to make those real time decisions before we have ML doing that decision support for us, right? But empowering them to be able to make those kind of decisions in real time. We believe that using the Appian no-code, low-code type platform allows us to bring that Redilo really to light in a really efficient way. So really excited about what the future holds around reimagine the day in the life of.
Well, and to that Redilo point, and to harken back to what we just talked about, right? We're in an age of consumerism today.
Exactly.
And whether it is your end consumer, your actual end client, be it a patient, be it a person that's getting paid from a supply chain perspective, from an AR/AP perspective, But when you're actually talking about your employees as well, those employees also have a choice. And to really ensure that they are as most satisfied as, any of their friends, any of their competitors that may be, looking to lure them over, being able to give them that tip-top technology that helps them not only do their job better, but also perhaps even may enjoy it.
Yeah.
Dare we say?
Yeah.
For folks, the studies have certainly shown that folks who enjoy their job, they're becoming fewer and further between these days. And to be able to, give that technology the kind of enabling factor of getting them to that point, it's huge.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that we're creating a rip and replace type application, right? I need to make sure that I'm clear with that. It's really around, leaving the systems of record where they are, right? Being able to fully utilize and I guess customize or configure your business process to meet your business process, right? Instead of going into your ERPs, your CRMs, and making it not look like those CRMs and there's ERPs anymore, and you've actually are outside of your maintenance window or periods now because you can't actually upgrade.
So sorry.
Because you have so much customization.
Absolutely.
So we're talking about taking what is custom yours, right? Your business process. And let's really start thinking about how to reimagine your role, your day-to-day, and saying, how do we enhance, how do we change the way that your associates or your employees are working? Is it that we need 17 different assets pulled real time to be able to make that decision? Is there ML that we can use to actually do some decision support ahead of time to bring those assets real time so they can make the decisions? Oh, and then by the way, automate the fulfillment of that automation or that task, right?
Absolutely.
And say, hey, we can either batch or we can actually use real-time automation to be able to fulfill that. It's like, wow, we're now really looking at the human and saying, what are you really good at? You're really good at decisions, right? We're really good at deducing and saying, hey, I know what steps I need to take next. Well, why can't we start looking at next best action and saying, hey, here's what we kind of recommend. How would you like to move forward? Let's do this. And then the automation actually kicks off and the work is done. What does that do? It means I'm not spending 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes actually trying to do that fulfillment, right? I can go on to the next one, right? And I can make that decision. And whoop, I can go on to the next one, right? And that's really the concept of what Reimagine the Day in the Life is. And really excited to bring that to life.
Awesome.
Very cool.
So Fritz, we've had a really good conversation here, and I'd love to be able to start wrapping this up and maybe get into some specific use cases.
Sure.
Can you elaborate a little bit on, you had one earlier,
Yeah.
is there some additional information that you can help and elaborate a little bit more for the audience so that they can understand maybe a little bit around what some of the benefits that you guys are seeing in those use cases?
Absolutely. So, as we mentioned, the one that we talked about briefly was more on the payer side of the house, utilization management, care coordination side of the house, ensuring that those highest acuity patients are best taken care of. Ensuring that you are taking care of your most vulnerable population as effectively and efficiently as you possibly can. So, in addition to looking at the additional population that this particular client, was able to achieve the gold standard quality of care thereof as a result of the Appian implementation, that's all well and good. But at the end of the day, those patients are healthier. Those patients are able to continue on their life, on their happy path. It's hard to put a hard ROI on that. But by the same token, you've got clinicians, you've got physicians, you've got nurses, you've got techs who are now able to actually, in taking on those additional patients, that's certainly a personal satisfaction for them, knowing that, hey, I used to be able to take care of 20 of these a day, and now I've been able to bump that up to 25 or 30 or whatever the case. Yeah, my caseload is heavier than it used to be, but I don't feel the weight. Truly being able to let that Appian intelligent automation, take the brunt of those calculations. Once those algorithms are set up, once that machine learning is in place, that's huge. We've another use case actually comes to mind. It happens to be on the referrals side of the house, so more on the provider side of the house, but looking at physicians as they do particular referrals of patients to specialties. Thinking about how you need an orthopedic referral. You've got a total knee replacement that is pending. Your particular internist, your GP says, I've certainly got some options to refer you to. Let's talk about those options. But rather than having it be a days-long process, one particular client actually, for each referral, not only was it just a scheduler that was pulled into the situation, right? But it's actually physicians and nurses who need to put clinical eyes on that particular chart, on that particular patient record, to ensure that they were getting that gold standard quality of care that they so deserve. And actually, there was a particular client that Appian took on. One of our partners who pre-Appian was actually spending 8 minutes of physician and or nurse time per referral per patient. So you can imagine, in the course of a day, that adds up. In the course of a week, I mean, you're talking from just a billability perspective, from a lost productivity perspective. Post-Appian, after algorithms had been written, systems had been done, different things had been learned, and the system was trained up, they were actually able to reduce that 8 minutes of human intervention time to 0. They completely eliminated it 75% of the time. The other 25% of the time was when they needed a little bit of manual human clinician oversight. But even in that 25% of the time, 8 minutes was reduced to only 2 minutes of physician and nurse intervention time. So, the multifaceted win really is, as we talked about, the age of consumerism, right? You're making the patient happier because things are getting done more quickly. He or she's spending less time on the phone, less time in the office, less time, screwing around with something that isn't probably the most pleasant thing in their day. I want to get this done. I know I need to get it done. The blinders are up. How quickly and painlessly can we make this happen? But also encouraging those clinicians to be as efficient as they can while still maintaining that top tier standard of care. And having a system that enables them to do that, know that it's not going to fall to the wayside, know that it's right there, kind of shoulder in the small of the back, propping them up. They know that it's not just completely falling on them. Like I said, physician satisfaction increase, nurse satisfaction increase, from a billability perspective, from the back end with patient financial services or revenue cycle management, looking at things, for lack of a better phrase, T's are crossed and I's are dotted, such that bills are able to be dropped more effectively, more cleanly, and certainly looking to get the dollars back in the door from a remit perspective more quickly as well is really the name of the game. So.
Thanks for sharing that. I mean, those are awesome stats to hear like that. And, it's one of those things where there's this synergy and all the things that you've talked about. And I don't even know if you've ever read what we put out there, the Total Automation Program Yield, but it hits, like you talked about all these different experiences from, doctors and nurses and then patients too, right? All of that time and effort adds up. So,
They all see it.
Yeah,
they all get a window into the view.
But it would be nice if everybody could start measuring the impacts in those experiences, right? And then the scalability side of things that you talked about, reducing 8 to 0, 75% of the time, and in the other 25%, you're still only doing 2 minutes of effort right there. It's huge, right? So. If you're kind of curious about what I'm referring to, there's a white paper on our website that you can go download under our resources tab. It's called Total Automation Program Yield, and it'll outline some of the other areas that you can find benefits in your automation program. So, Fritz and Scott, thanks for being here. I truly appreciate it. I just wanted to kind of close real quick and say that we're really excited about the Appian partnership here. This is next level. In your intelligent automation program. So if you're curious and wondering how you guys can succeed, and the reason that we're partners is like this technology, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. It just really depends on the complexity of the processes that you might be trying to automate. But we're here, Agilify is here as advisors and consultants and people that can actually help you leverage technologies like Appian and any other RPA technology that you may have, or RDA technology, and all the other ones that we've talked about here. Our practitioner experience, we bring it all together. We want to make sure that you guys are successful in your automation journey. So again, Scott, thank you. Fritz, thank you for being here. And we're looking forward to a successful future and bringing success to our clients, to be honest with you.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Perfect.
Awesome.